What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Resident Evil Infinite Darkness panel. I'm so excited to have awesome guests with me today. Excuse me. Thank you so much for joining us. Join our live chat if you have questions for our cast here. And we're going to dive right in. My name is Carrie Lane. Thank you for joining us again. And we're just going to go around if you could say your name and then what your role was with the film series. It's a film. If you watch them all together, it's one long movie. And then how did you get involved with this project? We'll start this way. We'll go with Alex.
Oh, hi, I'm Alex Von David. I adapted the script and helped out during the Mocap session, and then also was the voice director for the ADR portion of the job.
Nice. And then Armen, next one over.
My name is Armand Taylor, and yes, exactly.
She's very excited.
Very excited about
Go
this.
get it.
And I did the mocap for Jason and a few others, and you can hear me as Mad Dog and some other people in the finished product.
Nice. I feel like we're kind of the Brady Bunch in a way.
I know.
Feels like it.
Stepanie, we got Stepanie here.
Hi guys, I'm Stepanie Panisello. I am the voice and motion capture of Claire Redfield. I'm initially got this because I think I played Claire in Resident Evil 2. So it was kind of, it made sense to kind of do the natural progression. I also am the mocap for Shenmei as well. So, which is not voiced by me, but I did do mocap for her as well. So
cool. And then we got, it's mirrored, so it's a little weird. There we go. We got Ray that way.
Hey guys, I play, my name's Ray Chase. I play Jason in the movie, the voice of Jason. And it looks like I started out way back March of 2020. I found the email about it. I auditioned for a bunch of roles that day, but I ended up playing Jason.
Nice. And then last but not least, we got all the way in the corner, Nick.
Hi, Nick Apostolides here. I voiced and mocapped Leon Kennedy in the project, and like Stepanie, I just got I think an email one day asking if I just want to reprise the role from RE2 Remake. So, here we are.
Nice. And then if you were brand new to Resident Evil Infinite Darkness and you're like, what are we talking about here? So it is a episodic on Netflix, so you can watch. I think each episode is about 28 minutes. So federal agent Leon S. Kennedy teams up with this TerraSafe staff member, Claire Redfield, to investigate a zombie outbreak. Pretty much lots of zombies and gore and action. Yeah, pretty much in a nutshell. So tell me about your process doing the voice acting on this. We'll start with the voice acting aspect of it. And what is it like to do it and then see the final product? Because this one is done with the English first. And so you are the voice. We'll start down below here with Stepanie.
Start with me. Okay. No pressure. So what is it? Okay. So as far as the, I guess, during the creation of it, I would say it's not entirely different from how you would work on other projects. I think what was a little bit different with this one, it was a little more grounded in a way that felt more cinematic. So I think in that sense, there was, that change in there. But it's really fun too, because I think sometimes when you also get to play, let's say, multiple characters, it's understanding those different characters and those mannerisms and how to make them completely different just through body. And so I think in that sense, it was really fun to try and afterwards see the difference when I was like, okay, this is when I was like, this is Claire, and I know Claire really well at this point, and then how do I, help with Shenmei's kind of creation and everything. So I think that was really fun to kind of see that difference. I think another thing that's really fun is to see where we started and then the collaboration and how we were able to add different things. Like for instance, Alex and I, there's we would talk about the scene where, oh my gosh, is this going to be a spoiler for people that haven't seen it? Am I allowed to give spoilers?
Yes.
I was going to say
Yes.
It's been out. It's fine.
Okay. Well then, spoiler alert. But so there's the scene, where Claire is tied up and this, for some reason, Claire gets tied up in situations. And so, we discussed how it would be really important for her to fight, and so we talked about all that, and we're like, let's have that moment where she just wants to headbutt Wilson, and I think that really became a thing, which was really cool to then see it. Especially because my mom was actually on set of this one, and every time we would do it, she's like, is he really hitting you? So it was really cool to see that it really did look pretty real.
Nice. And then Nick, what about you? Because you've played this character before, so now you're back with him.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure coming back. I haven't really dabbled into sequels ever in my career, and this was kind of a first one. There's a lot of pressure. I really do try to approach my projects from a very grounded point of view. I try to bring the right energy to every scene, and it was great having Alex there. I needed to be reeled back sometimes because I wanted to give a lot of like cowboy essence to this version of Leon, a little bit older, and I think we found a great middle ground. So Alex, thank you for keeping me realistic.
No.
And also, it's always comfortable having trusted people in your scenes with you. So to Steph and to Armen, you guys, every time I was in a scene with you, I knew it was going to feel very real, and you made my job easy, is what I'm saying. So thank you, and that's about it.
Very cool. Ray, what about you? How is it voicing on this kind of a project?
Talk about making my job easy. I had the great Armand Taylor. I just copied what he did in a different voice. He did amazing. So it was a lot of like, anime, you're dealing with flaps and sync and all this kind of stuff. But for me, I just heard what he did. And so you copied that performance 100%. It ended up being really easy. The hard part was all the breaths. There's a lot of breathing in that thing, and I did so much breathing that just got mixed out. I spent hours breathing during the scene where they're coming out of the helicopter. They're in Panamstan. So much of my breath just lost, like tears in the rain.
I tell you, it was all there in the edit. What we delivered, yeah. So I think Ricky Watson edited it, and he actually called me up. He's like, are you sure all these goddamn breaths have to be there? And I was like, yes, Ricky, put them all in there. Let them decide what you keep and what you don't keep. But thank you very much, by the way, everybody, for playing along with all those breaths, even though some of them didn't.
It's so funny because when I saw the again, spoiler, the transformation scene that Ray did at the end, I was just listening to all of those breaths and grunts, and I was just like, "Oh, you poor bastard!"
Oh my gosh, you did that. That scene was very hard. I will say that is probably the hardest sync that I've ever had to do because you're moving and breathing and interrupting yourself and transforming, and it's like, damn, this is hard to sync up.
Yeah.
And the video and the animation wasn't quite finished yet either.
Right.
No.
So that was also throwing everybody off in places. So it was
you had to do it with the Lego animation still.
Yeah. With the Play-Doh hair and everything. Yeah.
Play-Doh.
Oh yeah.
There's also the interesting thing that I remember when we were doing it that Alex was like, this is going to be a problem that we're gonna have to deal with at some point, is the animators are in China, I think. And they have like a limited amount of audio or being captured by the thing. So there
the audio
times where where our mouths were just open breathing, or you make some sort of face that is a breath that is part of expressing an idea, but it looks enough like a word that they sort of animate a word. And so there's like suddenly a lip flap there where you're like, no one said anything there, but now you have like, you have to like find a word to fit there.
I remember that.
So I think I told Armen and you, Nick, and Stepanie about what happened to us on Vendetta. Because there was a moment where the actor who was playing Chris in that one was rolling down a window because the director said, okay, you're driving a truck and you're rolling down the window. So when he was rolling down the window, he had his mouth open, with putting the effort to roll down the window of this truck. And we got the footage and I was like, oh my God, it looks like he's saying something. And it never changed. Because at that point, animation for mouth flaps was locked, so they weren't going to close his mouth for some reason in the animation. And so, I had to come up with a line for Chris and a line for Leon.
Wow.
And that was its own special hell. That was the thing I definitely told Armen about. I definitely told Armen about that.
I remember because we did a take and you were like, I like had my mouth open a bunch, just like breathing for some reason. And you were like, I'm going to need you on this next take to not do that because it's absolute murder for the animators.
Hey, lesson learned, right?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I also want to say, sorry, really quick. Hearing Ray's performance of Jason was really, really cool. Cause it was cool to, like, everything's kind of like an evolution of adaptation. You know, it's like Alex writes his version, then I come in and say it slightly differently than he heard in his head. And then the animators come in and are like, no, this is more of a close-up shot, so we need to like limit their facial reactions or expand it because it's further out. And then Ray comes in and, you know, brings his own fantastic essence to it. So it's like, it's so cool to see the character like continue to, I don't know.
Yeah,
it evolves.
Yeah,
It evolves. It evolves like everything. Yeah.
It's cool.
Then speaking of all that, so Armen, how was the process for you doing the motion capture? You posted a really cool video on Twitter showing a running and lifting.
Nick posted that. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, then you retweeted. I saw it on yours too.
Yes.
Okay, nice. So tell us about that process of being a body and a voice too.
It's really cool. It's kind of great because it's like mocap acting is as close to being 5 as you're ever going to get, aside from being 6. Like you're in this big white space. They hand you like a purple Nerf gun, and they're like, "Here's your bazooka, go play." And you're like, "Okay." So you're like running around this like empty set, just imagining it all. And I got to work with these fantastic actors, and then the Japanese stunt team that was there were just incredible. And it was really cool to get to play that. And it's kind of like live action, you're sort of like a live action TV show, except you're filming on a much faster schedule. And then to see what they do with it and how they build this world around you. And you're like, oh, interesting. When they said that's what the helicopter would look like, that's what it looks, to us, it's just like some PVC piping that we're just like lifting up, pretending it's a heavy door. And then you're like, oh, wow, they really sold that. I like it. It's really cool.
Very cool. Alex, we kind of have a question that I feel you would answer. There we go. How was making the English script different in Infinite Darkness compared to previous Resident Evil CG films, since Infinite Darkness is episodic? Were there any scenes that stood out as favorites when recording?
So originally the English script was a movie, and that's how I was adapting it. Aside from there wasn't anything different really in this one, other as far as like adapting it. I was adapting all of the action blocks and as well as the dialogue, and then talking to the director and the production staff whenever my adaptation was completely wrong. You get a translated script and some things are translated a certain way, and you think, oh well, they're on a rooftop. No, actually, they're in a submarine. Oh, well, that's different. Okay, got to change a couple things. It wasn't very different, I have to say. It was pretty much the same job for me. And then as far as any scenes that stood out as favorites when recording, I liked Claire's moments in the hotel room as she's piecing the mystery together. That was stuff that I was really looking forward to seeing. I also liked the scene in the submarine where Leon's trying to get a straight answer out of Jason, and they're talking across that table with each other. I knew that was going to be special. Of course, by then I didn't know who was going to be performing the motion capture or the voice or anything like that. I was, just working on the script. But I was hoping that whoever the actors were would nail it, and you guys did across the board. I also loved something, and this was something that I think Stepanie came up with. It was when Leon goes to rescue Claire from the acid bath, and he pulls her up onto the collapsed catwalk and stuff, and she lands on him. On set, I remember Stepanie, and I think you too, Nick, but mostly Stepanie, she was like, this is a moment for the Cleon fans. So here's this idea. I'm going to land on top of him, and we're going to get kind of close. And I think I came up with we came up with a different kind of dialogue, and we sold it to Hasumi-san, the director, and he was like, "Oh yeah, let's do that." And I remember when that happened on the Mocap stage, I was like, "Oh, great idea! That was awesome."
Good job.
Oh man,
so
people are gonna
that became one of my favorite moments too, because I mean, having something like that, well, yeah, of course, of course, especially with those two characters, it's like it totally makes sense.
And even though she's still very much Claire in that moment, like I'm gonna get off you now, but there's an ounce of sexual tension there.
Yeah, to be fair, let's just clarify. Okay, so now all the Cleon fans are super excited. They had no idea. People have asked me about this. I have not come forward with this information. So
I'm sorry. No,
it's okay.
That, Stepanie.
Look, it obviously Claire and Leon, there's not a thing there, but people have been wanting it for years. So I thought it would be special if this is already going to happen, I was like, let's just make it a little longer and a little more awkward, So that was just, adding to the character relationship and all of that kind of stuff. So, but I don't know. I thought it was plenty enough to get people like talking, but also to be like, yeah, no, Claire's not having it. Leon felt like he held on that gaze a little long, and then Claire's like, nah, I'm good.
It adds a little complexity.
Exactly. The dichotomy of the characters.
Of course. Well, speaking of the physicality of it, and we got a question here. So how much preparation do you need to do mocap? So Stepanie, we were just talking about doing the motion capture for that. Do you have any sort of preparation you do going into a role in general and then for this project?
Yeah. So in general, I personally am the type of person that likes to kind of be as similar to a character as possible. So I think it's important to, do your gun training and do your stunt training and have an understanding of the physicality and understand physicality. So in that sense, I'm always just like working on that aspect of things. However, I would say just getting into the world of it all, I'm a big stickler about scene study. So I break down all of my scenes. I break down all of my beats and my emotions and my feelings for why things might happen. And then once I get into the room, I think the big thing is to, just get yourself into a space where, I feel that my body's not stiff. And, and when I create all of that, and then when I create, I like to also get myself into a mental headspace based on, who I'm about to interact with. All of that stuff's super important to me. So I'm a little bit particular because I will never, and I hate to say this, but I don't ever want to give a performance that I don't believe. So if I don't believe it, and Alex and probably most of you that have worked with me would hear me say, yeah, but why? Why is this? Why am I saying this? And okay, but what's the situation here? And so, because I think that's super important. And so I think all of that stuff for preparation. And then when it comes to character, because you're working on different characters and it could be real quick shifts and changes, you have to have an understanding of that character's background. I like to create backstories into my characters sometimes. Like Shen Mei, I only had so much, but I'll write a whole story about what her story was beforehand, so that when I come into it, that's where I'm pulling from and that's where I'm coming from. And so therefore, my walk is different. My mannerisms are different. My facial, whatever, she's different from Claire. Claire is very in your face. I'm just going to give it to you how it is. And don't question me, And then Shen Mei has all these extra layers, and she's a little bit sexy, but coy. And she has this whole thing. And so that shows up. Obviously I didn't do the final product for the voice, but that shows up in her facial, experiences and in moments where she's just kind of staring or looking at, different characters and stuff. So I am probably that over analytical, really take it seriously, love the craft person, but that's what I do.
Okay. And then Armen, what about you is there any kind of prep you do before motion capture?
I guess it depends on who you're playing. I mean, that's a big part of it. Like with with Jason, I went and did some get my thing to focus again. I went and did some weapons training, and worked with a fantastic guy named Richard Dorton, who is, if you're a fan of video games, he has been the mocap of virtually every game, or has been involved in virtually every game. He's fantastic. And he helped me just sort of shape the way that Jason would walk and inhabit a space. And then getting to see the artwork that the animators had sort of drafted up and be like, okay, so this is the guy. He's a bit more of a bruiser than I am. So how does that guy walk into a room? He's also, Jason can kill just about anybody in a room. So, what is that when you walk into a room and you're that deadly, how do you stand in a space when you're that confident? And just kind of figuring that out. And then the rest, scene study and then just working with, fantastic actors and great writing, and trying not to fuck it up.
Good answer.
Get out of the way. Get out of the way of the good work that everyone's doing, and and go for the.
Yeah.
But I mean, but to that point, and this is something that even Ray can talk about, because I remember mentioning it to you, Ray, when we started working on Jason's voice. But Armen put in special ticks, so Jason's personality. It was really amazing to see how you would kind of do this hand motion like this sometimes with Jason, and then there was when you transformed, there were further sort of performance and vocal ticks that you put into the character that then I was telling Ray about, and then Ray actually you dolled it up even more. You kind of grabbed the ball and just went straight for the end zone with it, which was even cooler, adding more breaths, of course, in the process.
Yes.
But I mean, motion capture is it's anything an actor does can be animated, literally. So an actor has to be in the moment, in the character the whole time. There's a moment with between Jason and Shen Mei after Shen Mei kills this zombie in the White House, and Jason comes up, and it's a small moment. I don't know if anybody notices it, but it's kind of a tell for Jason and Shen Mei's relationship, where Jason looks over at her, and Armen did this little nod. It's very subtle and very small, but the animators caught onto it, and it's there in the animation. And it's oh, here's a little thing. If you guys watch the show again, you'll see that something's really up between these two people. And then, of course, Stepanie gave him a little look back as the Shen Mei character. So motion capture, you got to always be in character, and you got to always think about it. As soon as action's called, you got to be in it to win it.
Actually, I do have a question for you, Ray, from the chat. So, question for Ray. After Jason's transformation, you managed to retain the unique vocal qualities that made him distinctly Jason, all the while using a completely different voice. So that's first part. And second part is, I was wondering, are those Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type characters challenging to perform, or is it refreshing to let loose and allow that character be completely unhinged?
I will say the same thing that I said before. Armen also did two voices. So because he had when he was transformed, he totally went completely off the rails. This crazy guttural sounding voice, and so I took my cue from that. And I know I don't worry too much about characters sounding different when I'm playing a character that has two different states. You kind of know there's kind of a handshake agreement with the audience that as long as that voice is coming out of the person's mouth, they can buy it. That okay, I guess they sound like that now. So I think that's how you walk that fine line between voicing one character and then having that character have a completely different voice. That's how you do it. You just kind of cheat.
All right. And then Nick, for you, was there any sort of prep you did for coming back into the role? And then in general, based on a few different topics we've covered, if you want to add into that.
I was pleasantly surprised with how many stunts they let me do in Japan.
Nice.
That was fun. Alex got a little scared a few times, but I said, I got this. Anyways,
yeah, the ladder almost fell. You remember that?
I'm still here. I remember. But as I get older, things are starting to hurt more. And so what that forces me to do, because I do a lot of stunts in the industry with mocap and stuff, and I need to keep just physically agile. So I'm an avid runner, just with fitness and everything like that. I got to keep up with it because my body's not getting younger. But as far as like prep for the scenes, I try to go in, yes, with an idea, right, of who the character is, an idea of how I think the scene might go. But you also have to keep open-minded because it's like a fine line that you have to kind of toe on. And I try to be as receptive for direction as possible. And sometimes your idea might not be resonating well with the cast or scene partners or with the direction. And so you got to be able to like switch it like that. But one thing I really do focus on is that I've always considered myself a nuanced actor. And in college, I studied nonverbal communications, and we had an entire semester on nonverbal. And I do believe that body language is a huge part of motion capture because, like Alex said, every single inch that you move is being recorded. Same with like the twitch of an eye. You can see that in the final product. So I try to be present in the moment, understand the character, and especially a stoic guy like Leon Kennedy, I really emphasize body language. And as long as his character is thinking the right thing, I think the body language takes care of itself and your eyes act accordingly. I've always said that.
One thing I want to throw into on that point is like with mocap that's so unique is if you're on camera, the director's going to go, okay, this is a close, this is a close up, this is an extreme close up, this is a 2-shot. So if part of your body's not in the shot, and unless the director in mocap has a very clear vision, like the only way this is going to come out in the finished product is in a close up or something. Everything you do, you don't know what because later when they go back through, they go through with this camera that they can like see the re-rendering of it after we're gone. And they can be like, oh, this moment that Nick and I had that was really close and intimate. They're like, this looks better and wide, pull out. And so that thing you were doing with your hand that you didn't think was going to be there is now there. Like you're on stage doing on-camera work, also doing voice. It's this weird, because then the animators can make anything they want. I mean, they can take your little eyebrow arch and make it bigger for a longer shot, or they can tamp it down and be like, nope, we're tight.
It's a weird hybrid, right?
It's a weird hybrid, yeah.
They always move. They move your irises because you're wearing the rigs in front of So sometimes if you're like really close, like the Cleon scene, they had to move the irises a little bit and move the faces a little closer together because your rigs were getting in the way. I remember that. Stepanie and Nick, how your rigs were tapping each other because your faces had to be closer for that. But how do you do that with a camera and a light? So
that's interesting. Like these are some aspects people wouldn't necessarily think of that could be included, and it sounds essentially like it's a theater performance on a microscope of anything. It's like we're gonna look at everything.
Yeah, that's another thing is like being spatially aware of yourself. Like I had a little bit of that in particular with this one. With like there's like it's like a semi-fight scene that Claire has when they come into the apartment, and then she's got to kick and punch and then fall and then like whatever, like being tased. And so like you have to be aware as you're falling, like you have to know where certain packs are. You have to know the distance of like how far your face cam is because you don't want to break anything or mess anything up. And then intimate moments like that, you have to be hyper aware. Like it wasn't so bad, I think, with this one. Like I know when I was on Resident Evil 2 where I had to carry Sherry's character a lot, that was interesting because you're having like an emotional moment with a character who's also looking up at you, who you're actually literally carrying. And like, so there's a lot to go into play. And I think just understanding where you're going to land. I know I'm very particular on that. I'm like, hey, I'm going to land on my right side. So I'm going to need you to move this pack over to here. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, can you do it to the back? Because I'm going to go in this direction. And so being aware of like spatially aware is a big deal.
Very cool. We've talked a little bit about different technical difficulties and general difficulties that can arise. Were there any particular moments that happened while filming that were just like, ooh, and how did you overcome that moment? And were any of them like happy accidents because then it turned out better than you planned? We'll start with Alex.
It was, Leon's being held up by Jason by the throat. And so they strapped Nick into a thing, and Nick was like, yeah, I'm totally cool doing this. The rig that they set up were these 2 A-frame ladders with a steel pipe. So they tied the rope and the pulley up, Nick up to that. And the ladders were built on top of Apple Blocks platforms. And I was standing off to the side. Yeah. Well, I mean, they thought it was safe, but I was standing off to the side with my laptop, as I'm always standing. And so the gag is that Jason grabs Leon by the throat and then lifts him up. So a whole team had to pull Nick up, with this, harness system that they had him in. And suddenly one of the A-frame ladders closest to me went like that. And I dropped my computer and jumped on the ladder and pulled it back, as they already had 2 guys on the ladder, but they weren't enough. So I jumped onto the ladder, pulled it back. 3 more people came up after me and they jumped on it too. And then on the other ladder, there was like already 6 people now. So
great memory. I loved it.
Oh, dude, it scared the shit out of me.
Good times.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm relatively sure that Armen could have just grabbed my throat and lifted me up with one arm.
Yeah, why didn't they just do it
loud.
that way? Yeah,
Armen, why didn't you just volunteer?
You saw the harness and you got so excited, and I was like, nah, I don't want to ruin it for him.
Yeah. But Armen was safety.
Yeah.
And I remember they were like, oh, Nick, you don't have to do this. And Nick was like, I've done this before. And I was like, let him do it. It'll be realistic at least, come on. And
Nick is also Nick is such a I don't even know the right word for this. Like, you are so committed to the performance, and both Leon, but in general, you're someone who holds nothing back. So, you're selling a lie. I mean, so there was a scene where I had to knife had to knife another guy in the throat, and it was John Demita, who is a fantastic actor, who was one of the other Mocap performers. And I had just done a scene with Nick where I'm holding him by his throat, and he's like, no, you can choke me, it's fine. And I'm like, no, I can just pretend. And Nick's like, no, I need the voice to do it. So I'm sitting there and he's like, yeah, okay, good. And then I go to do the next scene with John, and I am throwing him up against the wall and knifing him. And I was just carried the same energy over and pushed him in a little hard. And he was like, we're playing pretend. You don't have to do that. I was like, oh, sorry, right. But Nick is so.
Oh my God, I remember that. I remember that moment.
He's like, his head is he's like, you don't have to do this. I'm like, oh, sorry.
This is acting. Yeah.
John.
We're playing pretend.
He did this. He did that on Vendetta too. The same thing happened. So one of the characters, because he played both Arius and a couple other of the male characters in Vendetta, and the same exact thing happened. I forget what it was. I think Chris Redfield was punching him or roughing him up or pushing him into a wall and stuff. And Ruben, who was playing Chris, just pushed John into this fucking wall. And John was like, God damn it. And I'm like, oh.
We're playing pretend. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. So sorry. My bad.
Safety words were not discussed, I guess. No,
I mean, usually, within stunt world, there's a 6-inch rule, and there's certain things where if there's a choking going on, you, the actor that is being choked, are the one that are actually in charge, and you create what that looks like. So, but some of us are more method than others. I'm method in some ways, don't choke me though.
Method, masochist, either one.
Now, those can be definitely physical difficulties to encounter. We were mentioning maybe at the top, Ray, you had some technical difficulties you ran into while recording?
I stream anime, or I dub a lot of anime, and because it's a lower frames per second, you can get away with an average internet connection when you're streaming. This is all recorded during COVID times, so I wasn't in studio. But this was a very high FPS. Really took a lot of bandwidth, so I had to move. I recorded all of Jason's dialogue in the closet of my in-laws
Really?
place in Mesilla, New Mexico. Yeah, that was where we ended up going.
So crazy.
They had great internet, and it was just a converted old closet, and I sat on the floor, and that was where it all came from.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's where it all
That's
happened.
amazing.
Hey, whatever gets it done, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad.
I gotta say, when I found out that Ray was gonna voice Jason, I was like, I mean, first of all, what a perfect guy to play Jason, and also Ray, you're Etrigan.
Yeah, Etrigan. Yeah.
The voice you do for that is like, there are a lot of voice actors out there who can do things and not sound like themselves, and I don't think I've ever heard a voice that sounded so. I mean, you have a deep voice, but like, it was a completely different sound than a human voice can make, and I was like, oh, Jason is in very good hands. Like, Monster Jason is set. Like, they got Etrigan, we're good. He's fine.
Thank you. The guy I hired to do the Etrigan voice is amazing. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we are pretty much at the end of our time, unfortunately. If there's anything you would like to quickly add, and then also say where people can find you online. We'll start the bottom opposite corner with Nick.
I just want to say thank you to everyone involved in this project. It was very memorable. And Ray, I hope to work with you one day.
Yeah.
And thanks for having us on. This has been really fun. And you guys can find me on Instagram. It's just Nick_APOS. And Twitter, it's my full name, Nick Apostolides, but there's no C in the Nick. I don't know why I did that. Anyways.
Wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was cool back in the day. But anyways, thank you everybody for having us today.
Yes. And then we'll go Ray.
Just twitter.com/Ray Chase. And as Chad is saying, Lava streams every Wednesday, 7 p.m. on twitch.tv/loudannoying.
We got Stepanie.
Also just want to give a big thank you to, all of the fans and everybody that just has really been so welcoming and supportive. I think of, Nick and I coming on as these iconic characters and giving us that space and trusting us to be able to do that. I also want a big thank you to all the actors here and to Alex as well. It's been so fun working with every one of you. Ray, you and I have worked on different capacities.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to bring it up, but it's pretty cool how we first met. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy? So so it's really cool to do it in this way. Eventually it's going to be where we're in the same room.
Yes. Well, also, our characters don't talk the entire thing, which is insane. I don't say.
They don't know. Claire and him don't, but Shen May's character, I did because I was all the mocap for that.
That's
so
true.
Technically kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
So that's super cool to get to be on this panel together. And then as far as where you can follow me, I'm the only Stepanie Panasello in the world. So if you look up Stepanie Panasello and it's under Twitter, it's going to be Steph_Panasello. On Instagram, it's Stepanie Panasello. And then I also Twitch stream every Thursday night. It is not that, it's actually Because I Claire. And that's a play on words from Resident Evil 2 when Sherry and her are having a moment. And Sherry looks at her and is like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you helping me? And she says, because I care. So Because I Claire, that's every Thursday. So that's Twitch.
Nice. And then we got Armen.
At Armand Taylor on Instagram or Twitter. And I don't Twitch, I don't stream, but at Armand Taylor. Which now looking at your guys' thing, I was like, oh, I should have put in the hand.
I should have put the handle too. I didn't even think about that.
It was a last minute thing.
Smart of you. At Armand Taylor. That's it.
Awesome. And Alex.
It's just what you're seeing there. That's the only place you can find me on social media. It's Twitter, at AlexBondDavid. I don't have any Twitch channels or anything like that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed Resident Evil. I had fun being a part of it again. Luckily, they keep asking me back, so that's pretty neat. It was awesome working with everybody here, along with the folks who aren't here too. This was a really special project, and I got to work with amazing people again, and so it was like, at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy, and I hope I hope you all are happy too if you got a chance to watch it yet. I hope you're happy with how it came out. And
You did a great job, man. We all did.
well, I mean, we all did a great job. We all did a great job. So yeah, thank you again for all of your commitment, guys and girls. I mean, thank you so much for everything. It was y'all made it work. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you joined us live, awesome. Thank you everybody who was in the live chat. And if you joined us later, no worries. Comment down below your thoughts on this interview. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button. You can find me everywhere. There we go. All the social medias at Carrie D Lane, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the things. And again, thank you again to this awesome panel of everybody. It was super fun to talk about the show. Go watch Resident Evil Infinite Darkness on Netflix. And it's totally okay if you've never seen anything Resident Evil. It's still a really fun horror zombie series. So go check it out. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.